The countdown is over. Election day finally here. The last-minute rallies are wrapped up. President Trump and former Vice President Biden now awaiting the results along with everyone else.
President Trump returned to the White House in the middle of the night after holding 5 rallies in 4 battleground states. Today, he took a tour of the Republican Party offices just outside D.C. to thank campaign workers and volunteers.
Joe Biden taking time out this election day to visit his childhood home in Scranton, Pennsylvania. During his stop, he signed the bedroom wall there, writing, "From this house to the White House, with the grace of God, Joe Biden, 11/3/2020. Pennsylvania, of course, a key swing state in this election. Thanks for joining us as we continue our coverage on this election day. I'm Eden Schultz.
And I'm Julie Montanaro. We are following voting and awaiting results, not just for the presidential race, but for contests up and down that ballot. Stay tuned for team coverage in this half hour, including reports from Mike Vasalinda, Jacob Murphy, and Elizabeth Milner.
We'll start with Elizabeth, who's been watching election day voting at precincts in Leon County. Lines starting to pick up now in some places as time is running out to cast a ballot. Elizabeth's live at the Tucker Civic Center in Tallahassee. And Elizabeth, how's it going there?
Now.
Storming the South, Kamala Harris campaigning in Atlanta today. The vice presidential candidate speaking to HBCU students at one event and holding a rally shortly after.
Meanwhile, VP Mike Pence campaigning near Pittsburgh today, hosting a rally at the Allegheny County Airport. Pence will be in Tallahassee tomorrow evening. Of course, we'll have coverage of his visit on air and online.
As for President Trump, he trekked across Florida today, visiting the Villages earlier before wrapping up his day, holding a rally in Pensacola. This is the 15th visit the president has made to the Sunshine State this year. Thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Ben Kaplan.
And I'm Abby Walton. Meanwhile, former VP Joe Biden continues to slam the president's pandemic response. Deborah Alfarone reports from the White House.
Pushing past 270, the Associated Press declaring Joe Biden the president-elect on Saturday after his win in Pennsylvania put him over the necessary threshold in the Electoral College. But there's still a lot of boxes that need to be checked before he'd be inaugurated in late January. Sophia Hernandez compiling a list of everything that needs to happen between now and then. Sophia, break it all down for us.
So a lot of dates to keep note of over the next couple of weeks. Again, as we mentioned, December 14th is the day where the Electoral College will begin to cast their votes. And again, I am told that it will be very, very rare if those numbers change significantly. Now, on December 23rd, Congress will be able to get those votes. That's when those votes will begin to be sent into Congress. January 6th is when Congress will begin to tally those votes. And on January 20th is Inauguration Day for the new president and vice president. For now, reporting at the state capitol, Sophia Hernandez, WCTV Eyewitness News.
Okay, going to be a busy next couple of months. Sophia, thank you.
New today at 4, as of midnight tonight, the coastline in Panama City Beach will open back up to residents. The city council voting unanimously to reopen beaches in a meeting this morning that was live streamed on Facebook. Beachgoers are expected to maintain social distancing recommendations and limit groups to less than 10 people. And by the way, non-residents are still banned.
All right, closer to home, beaches in Franklin County now set to reopen on Monday. However, hours will be limited. Sheriff A.J. Smith saying county beaches will be open daily from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then again from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. County commissioners unanimously approving that move today. Again, that starts on Monday.
And that announcement comes just a day after Governor Ron DeSantis announced his plans to slowly but steadily reopen the Sunshine State. Beginning Monday, all retail stores and restaurants can operate, but only by maintaining 25% capacity inside the business. Restaurants can host customers outside as long as there is a 6-foot distance between tables. Elective surgeries can also resume. However, visitation at nursing homes and prisons still prohibited.
All right, businesses that will stay closed include bars, nightclubs, gyms, barbershops, and salons. The governor saying he's still exploring when it might be safe to reopen businesses that offer grooming services.
And today we spoke with Jerry Madden, who owns a cafe in Midtown in Tallahassee. She says while she is not comfortable offering inside seating just yet, she will take advantage of the outside opportunity.
I'm going to say we could probably do anywhere between 6 to 8 tables. That's what I am working on today, are measurements, the number of seats, so that I can leave the tables out here but put some maybe red X's on the ones that we can't seat.
And Madden says she still will not be able to bring back her entire staff, adding that she's had to furlough about half of her employees.
The governor's reopening plan still one of the top stories on our website today, so we asked you to share your thoughts on the plan. Head to our Facebook page to do so. You can still leave a comment if you'd like to.
All right, here now to break down the latest COVID-19 numbers in South Georgia and the Big Bend is web producer Fletcher Keel. Fletch, what are we seeing?
Welcome back. We know you have questions as the number of cases of the coronavirus climb in the U.S. We asked you to submit those questions on our website because we want to find out the answers to as many as we can.
Joining us live in the studio today is Dr. Christy Alexander with the FSU College of Medicine. Christy, thank you for being here. We're going to try to get through as many of these as possible. So our first question from our viewer is a person who has this virus but isn't showing any symptoms still able to transmit it to other people?
Yes, thank you for having me. First and foremost, I have to say that there is a lot that we still don't know about this virus. It's very, very important that we are checking in with the CDC's website on a regular basis. They're going to have up-to-the-minute information about what's going on. That said, to answer that question, yes, the simple answer is yes. You can be completely asymptomatic and be transmitting the virus. Like other viruses, it can take a couple of days to start developing symptoms, like the flu, for example. So as you're starting to get sick, you may not feel so bad, but could be shedding the virus.
Wow.
And you mentioned the flu, and as we're hearing about the coronavirus and some of these symptoms, they sound very familiar. So how are they able to differentiate between what could be the coronavirus or just the cold or a flu?
Very good question. So yes, they all look very similar, right? A cold, less severe. You might have some sniffles, cough. You might feel a little run down, but you're probably not going to have a high-grade fever. With the flu, though, you will have a fever. You're going to have body aches, night sweats, chills. You're going to not feel well. And so you're going to have these symptoms. And with coronavirus, the overlap is that with corona, you have fever, cough, and shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. So it's going to be hard to tell the difference sometimes, whether it's the flu, whether it's a cold, with the exception of that fever. And I should add that a fever is anything above 100.4 degrees. So below that, it's not going to constitute as such, which is important in regards to having a thermometer on hand so you can be checking these things if you feel sick.
The CDC director making a trip to Tallahassee. More on why he was in the capital city and where he made stops during the visit.
And post-election protocol, Joe Biden declared the president-elect by the Associated Press, but with some states still counting ballots and the threat of lawsuits and recounts lingering, many left wondering what happens next.
Right now, Tropical Storm Ada causing flooding and making its presence known across Florida. Take a look. You can see the wind whipping those trees in Port Canaveral. Good evening. I'm Julie Montanaro.
And I'm Ben Kaplan. Chief Meteorologist Mike McCall in studio breaking down the latest on the tropical storm. Mike.
Well, as Eta continues churning in the Gulf, disaster preparations are underway while the severity of this storm, as Mike mentioned, remains uncertain. Leon County Emergency Management is urging people here to be prepared for anything.
Certainly want to make sure that your disaster supply kit or your disaster supply bucket is ready. You have all the supplies you need on hand. Staying informed, keeping up with the latest forecasts. So know where you're going to shelter in place within your home. Know where your safe room is at.
Peters wants to remind the community that while we're nearing the end of hurricane season, disasters still happening, and they can happen year-round in Florida. He says emergency preparation should remain a top priority.
But we begin with an update on that breaking news we first brought you during our 4 o'clock hour. A fire at Tallahassee Memorial's Rehab Center that's just across the street from the hospital on Medical Drive. Thanks for joining us here at 5. I'm Ethan Schultz.
And I'm Julie Montanaro. First reports of that fire were about 2 hours ago. Crews have been evacuating dozens of patients there. Jacob Murphy is on the scene for us and joins us live right now with the very latest. Jacob.
Well, Julie, what was a very active scene just an hour ago has calmed down considerably. The last fire truck leaving the scene just a few minutes ago. But what I've been told by TFD is they were reported out here around 2 o'clock with an alarm for what turned out to be a small fire in the ceiling duct. Now, when they arrived, they saw smoke in the building, and that's when they elevated this to a second alarm fire, bringing in additional crews to help with all the logistics here. I'm told they got the fire under control quickly.
Football at FSU kicking off in just 2 days. What the highly anticipated start of the season means not only for fans, but also for the local economy.
But first, a decision today from the state attorney on this confrontation caught on tape. No charges are going to be filed against anyone at this protest, including the man with the gun.
State Attorney Jack Campbell sending a letter to Tallahassee Police Chief Lawrence Revel today saying, quote, while this office does not condone any of the violence that occurred during this incident, it is our responsibility to follow the laws as enacted by the legislature.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Julie Montanaro.
And I'm Ben Kaplan. The decision announced this morning. Elizabeth Milner following the story all day for us. She joins us live at the Capitol now with details and reaction to the news. Elizabeth.
The Tally 14, now the Tally 16, Tallahassee's Community Action Committee speaking out about 2 new arrests today that are linked to Saturday's protest. One person arrested for resisting an officer and obstructing without violence. The other also facing an additional charge of battery on a law enforcement officer.
What you are doing is a blanket, blatant racial attack, using your authority to build Trump up charges and then execute probable cause warrants on misdemeanor charges.
Now, Tallahassee's Police Chief Lawrence Revel says at least 3 officers were assaulted during this protest on Saturday. He says investigators are still reviewing footage.
And last night, another protest outside City Hall. You can see protesters circling the building as a 7-hour virtual City Commission meeting got underway. Capital City correspondent Monica Casey was monitoring that meeting last night. Law enforcement providing details and answering questions about what happened at the protest this past Saturday. Monica, what are they saying?